Hey, Foot Clan, we want to thank today's sponsor of the show, and that is RCA. Look, we know that there are some cord cutters out there in the world, and RCA is helping you watch all your local football games without cable with the help of the RCA Sliver XL. RCA is the #1 selling antenna brand because they make it super simple. You unbox it, you plug it in, and then you start watching some HD quality football. Here's what we need you to do. You go to rcaantennas.net, check out the RCA Sliver XL, and you know what? Use that coupon code RCAFF40. You get 40% off.
That's a lot.
And free shipping. That's rcaantennas.net, coupon code RCAFF40.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the FantasyJocks.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome into the show.
Woo! I feel like my headphones are extra loud today. It's giving me juice.
We had a listener league entry where they were doing this song. They were beatboxing
Oh, they
this
did
song.
like a scat version.
Like a scat version.
Hey, speaking of the Listener League, we're going to choose those this weekend.
Yeah.
Hope you got your entry in.
Yeah. Thanks to everybody. Sincere thank you to everybody that got their entries in for the listener league. They were amazing. All of them. And we don't even know what to do because we don't want to leave people out that deserve it. But we're going to have to go through that decision, and we'll write everybody back that sent them in. At least I will. Jason gave me the eyes like, how are you going to write that many emails?
Hundreds of emails.
I'll get back to you. So welcome to the show, the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Andy, Mike, and Jason back at it. We've got a mock draft Friday, all three of us in the building, and I can promise you there will not be two quarterbacks in this draft on accident.
on the roster.
I'm gone for a couple shows, and everything just falls apart.
Yeah, there was also, I think, a podcast a while back where I left it recording a little bit longer because Mike normally takes care of this kind of editing.
I believe it was all in one episode.
I knew it was impossible to get 4 good episodes done with you out of town. I thought I could get a couple, but you know, it's your fault. You stayed out too long.
Yeah, well, yeah. What are you gonna do when you're the best? You're the best.
You're the best. You're the best.
Bestie gonna best. That was
right.
Like Jason says.
Champ's gonna champ.
And best gonna best.
Well, we have a great show for you today. I have a good quick question. We have a bunch of fantasy news I want to get into, and obviously the mock draft. We're going to do a PPR mock draft, 12-team mock draft today, live on the show. These are fun episodes. You get to hear us break down our decision-making on every pick. We're drafting from the 6th spot today, and so you get to hear some debates. These guys will try to talk me out of the better pick, and we'll go from there.
And if we succeed, we will end up with an awesome team.
So we'll see how that goes.
I imagine Arian Foster is incoming.
We'll talk about him in just a minute. Quick question of the day from @TillsA9909S.
Oh,
so it's an Android on Twitter wrote us. Name 3 different quarterbacks drafted outside the top 20 who could end up as top 10 quarterbacks.
Ooh, I like that question.
All right.
That's
number 1.
Oh, I've got mine. So
number 1 is Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Sure.
Right. I'm trying to. Where did he finish last year?
I think 12th.
So he was already very close, and he started slower. But we saw the magic come together with Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker. We did see, however, that hopefully we don't have a Samson situation for Ryan Fitzpatrick after he shaved the beautiful mushroom-shaped mane on his head.
That was amazing.
The beard is still there, so he still's got the beard bro power. But that hair was incredible.
The beard bro power, I like that.
Yeah, and Jason and I were trying to imagine why he cut it, and we're figuring, well, he probably needed some oversized helmet to
like
get
a
on.
big
and so
Spaceballs
we're
style
messing-
helmet to get
Darth
over that hair.
Spaceballs.
Darth helmet, sized NFL helmet for Ryan Fitzpatrick.
He seemed like he could have been in the show Stranger Things with hair like that.
Yes.
Which,
yes, he certainly could have.
if you enjoy Stranger Things, that's going to be our discussion on the show after the show on YouTube.
Yeah. I got my guy. I'm going to give it right now.
I hope you don't take my guy.
That's why I'm saying it first. I tweeted about him this morning. I don't think there's a player in – there are very few players in fantasy football that can go from complete irrelevance to complete impact like Colin Kaepernick.
Oh, yeah.
Like Colin Kaepernick.
I loved it.
Colin Kaepernick is the guy that I decided, I think a week ago, I think he's going to win that job. And if he has the job, he's going to run the read option. He's going to run the ball a lot. They're saying he's doing that already in camp. he could be the guy that's drafted outside that top 20 that gives you big-time numbers, because even if the team struggles, even if the team's not great, he doesn't need to pass for 4,500 yards. He can pass for 3,100 yards, but run the ball for 700. I mean, he's the one guy in the league that can run the ball consistently, not get hurt, give you that baseline. So if he's starting, he's a guy to me that could end up in that top 10.
And those early reports are that he's more willing to run on the read option a lot in camp so far.
Runner's got to run.
That's great news. Yeah, he's not going to throw the ball well.
It's the theme of the day.
I'm going to go with a guy. So if this is someone being drafted outside of the top 20 that can finish in the top 10, I'm going to go with a guy who the year before last finished as the number 8 quarterback and now has a better offensive mind in town and a couple growing weapons.
Do it.
It's gross to say,
Tannehill?
but Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill, as I said, he has been a top 10 fantasy quarterback on a season before. He's got DeVante Parker growing into that year 2 role. We saw him be valuable last year. Jarvis Landry. Arian Foster is a great pass-catching running back, and you have Adam Gase, who has turned plenty of people into fantasy-producing quarterbacks. I think that he's a guy that could have a post-hype bounce back, because coming into last year, he was really hyped, but he burned you because he stunk.
You made it sound like Adam Gase is taking strangers or random people and turning them into fantasy quarterbacks. Could he do that?
Maybe. Well, but to be fair,
Jay Cutler's, he's kind of like a stranger.
To be fair, he took Peyton Manning to basically the greatest offensive season that we've ever seen, and he turned Jay Cutler, who is smoking Jay Cuddy. The public does not look too fondly upon him, and he had some pretty solid fantasy relevance.
Did he take Peyton Manning the way that Ken Wisenhunt took Kurt Warner?
Yeah, I was going to say, did
Kurt Warner throw 50-plus touchdowns?
Well, the question really is,
did Gase throw 50-plus touchdowns?
Did Gase bring Peyton to where he got, or did Peyton?
I think Adam Gase is a good offensive mind. I'll give you that. And I don't think it's a stretch to call Tannehill one of those guys. When I was looking at the people outside the top 20, the running backs, the quarterbacks, I think that he was one of those guys that popped into my mind. Winston's going at 19. Yeah, I'm sure you would have picked him.
I would have. I was upset that he was at 19 because I thought this was a freebie for me.
All right, we're going to jump into the news. Before we do that, I want to remind everybody, follow us on Twitter this year, at the FF Ballers. We have so many different resources that go out on Twitter, free stuff for you, stats, stat nuggets, insight that we find. We get it out there, and you can follow us individually on Twitter, too.
Incredible articles.
Oh,
and what comes along with following us on Twitter is because the Periscopes is connected to the Twitter, and we are looking into far more Periscopes this year during the season. I'm not guaranteeing it right now, but there will likely be a weekly Periscope on Sunday mornings where I can do some rapid fire answering.
Yeah, you want to be following us on Twitter to get all of that. Check out the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. You can see all those articles. Our rankings right now are on there. We're always tweaking those, moving guys up and down. And definitely connect with us on jointhefoot.com. Today we're doing a massive giveaway on jointhefoot.com, giving away a listener league spot, a signed Demaryius Thomas jersey from Pristine Auction. We're giving away some gear from Fantasy Jocks. We're giving away stickers and other gear from the show. So it's going to be great. Right, let's go ahead and jump in.
News and notes from around the league.
I wanted to let the listeners know real quick that if you hear rumbling, it's not Jason like you probably think. Like
it's not his stomach.
It's not a bassy, rumbly thunder. It's actually raining in Arizona. There is a thunderstorm going on right now. It's spectacular.
It is delightful.
But just letting you know that some people might think, what is Jason's...
First time in 3 years.
Jason gonna Jason.
Arian Foster's going to Arian. He is the number one back in Miami, and every day that goes by, he further solidifies that role. Now, Ajayi did return to practice today, but the reports out of camp is Foster has been everything that was advertised, and this is the big piece that people need to pay attention to. All the coaches, they're behind Arian Foster. The offensive coordinator came out, I think, yesterday and said, look, we need somebody to be, quote, the guy, and went farther to even say we need somebody who is out there all 3 downs.
Yeah, well, part of the reason in this offseason that there was so much love for Ajayi is because of the history of Adam Gase using, a single back in his system. And so if that's Arian Foster, you are going to get an absolute fantasy monster for for a few weeks.
I wish I had the what is it?
Before he
the Jefferson song, "Moving On Up." I'd be playing it right now because he's moving up on my board.
How concerned would you be?
Yeah.
With the injury history.
Look, Mike is the guy that we say is more of a risk taker in fantasy. I am a risk taker when it comes to injury.
You're a risk taker when it comes to Arian Foster.
True. But look, when a guy has value and could be healthy, it's not like he's never played a complete season. He's had 2 seasons of 16 games. He's had 2 seasons of 13 games in his career. Now, the last 3 years, it's been like 8, 13, and 4. But an Achilles tear is an Achilles tear. Like, I mean, maybe he's predisposed to that. His recovery from this Achilles injury is nothing short of masterful to me. So that says something about his work ethic. I'm gonna side on the okay. I'm probably not gonna get 16 games from him, but if I got 10 games with a 4th or 5th round pick,
so you're gonna be paying a 4 by the time the
right,
season starts,
and I'm fine with it.
Really,
I am fine with it.
Wow.
And I'll make sure my rankings reflect that very soon.
If I find out that Arian Foster's brother, who has been his trainer for many years, did not go with him to Miami,
then you'll be set.
Then I will believe he can stay healthy.
That's disrespectful. That's disrespectful.
That poor guy.
Maybe.
All right. Some other we said Ajayi got back into practice. Ryan Mathews got back into practice.
Yes.
So Darren Sproles was taking all the first team reps. Now, Ryan Mathews should start taking some of those. DeVante Parker has a hammy that hurts.
Yeah, I take back everything I said on Ryan.
No. I think it's a requirement now. The NFLPA requires 1 hamstring injury
per team per week.
Yeah, exactly. All right, the ESPN Tony Grassi from ESPN Cleveland has reported that Corey Coleman has looked like the real deal so far in camp. There are people talking about the fact he can score the ball. We loved what we saw in film from Corey Coleman more than just about anybody else in the draft. We thought the destination was good when Josh Gordon was going to be out. I still think Coleman offers you targets this year. Yep. I just don't know what you can. I wouldn't want to lean on him in any capacity.
Well, he is he's an elite athlete for his size. He's not a big guy, which is kind of the knock on him being an elite guy. You want like a 6'1", 6'2", and he doesn't fit that bill. But I want to know, let's say they cost the same amount in your draft. Who are you going to take between the higher touted Corey Coleman or the number 2 starting rookie in Sterling Shepard?
Ooh.
I will take Sterling Shepard.
I will as well.
I would.
Because his camp reports are great, too, and he's in just such a better offense.
He's so
probably
polished.
A defined role, too.
He is extremely polished. For coming out of college, he looks like he's ready for the NFL for his role. The problem is he's that slot guy.
I would probably take Coleman.
Yeah, Coleman's got the outside, probably has, I would say, a better chance of scoring more touchdowns, but then you got the fact that he's on the Browns.
On Fantasy Football Calculator, Corey Coleman right now is in the 10th. So he is going behind, Steve Smith, Stephon Diggs.
Where's Sterling Shepard?
Marcus Wheaton. Sterling Shepard is in the 8th, the back of the 8th. So I just – and not that I'm down on Shepard at all, but, I mean, when you got Diggs and Smith, I feel like I would rather take that. If I'm going to take a late wide receiver, I'd rather have the upside of Coleman.
Okay. That's fair enough. I'm going to surprise you guys with a quick detour here. I just got an email that I just have to share as a review of Source Rex today.
Oh.
Reviewosaurus Rex.
I couldn't help but read this one because I just thought it was too funny. This comes in from Austin.
Whoa. You got to read it right if you're going to do it.
This one comes in from Austin Bavia.
Thank you.
He said, yesterday I elected to not use anesthesia while getting my wisdom teeth pulled so that I could catch up on the podcast.
Wow.
Because he was allowed to wear headphones. Your guys' pristine Rashad Jennings insight is totally worth all the panic attacks I endured in that chair. By the way, I just started listening a few weeks ago and now I am addicted. Keep up the good work. Hashtag Abdullah Express 2K16.
What are you doing with your life?
Dude, I don't want even some local anesthesia. I want full general. I want to go out and wake up in 7 days when I'm healed.
I'm sure he got local anesthesia. He didn't. He's saying he didn't get put under so he could listen to the podcast during his wisdom teeth being pulled, and he said it was worth it.
Sometimes, this is what the credit that I'll give him. When
Oh,
I
my
have
goodness.
Andy just continuing to pour these bad takes, I start going numb.
gosh.
I start
All
numbing up. So maybe there's the power of that anesthesia.
So I helped
You
him
numbed
through
it.
it.
Yeah, you numbed his
All right,
mouth.
All right. I couldn't help but read that. That was just incredible to me.
What?
That just came in. So Seahawks running back Thomas Rawls remains on the active PUP.
Just an update.
Yeah, if you listen to Carroll, though, he said basically they're coming to Rawls and Jimmy Graham right now, and they're kind of checking in every day, saying, all right, are you ready to get back out there? They said both guys are working hard. I would expect Rawls out there before Graham.
I expect 300-plus check-ins of those on Jimmy Graham. Hey, are you ready today?
Yeah, you could be right.
Nope.
I know, honestly.
You could be wrong, though.
When I read
Sure.
that and I saw him grouping them together when he was talking about it, and I'm sure the question was asked.
that
but
hurts Rawls'
Yeah,
perception?
it scared me. I was like, oh, no, don't do that. Don't put Rawls in there with Jimmy Graham saying they're about the same, because Jimmy Graham, he's coming off a much harder injury.
All right. Safe to say that Matt Forte will miss the Jets preseason opener next Thursday. Also, there are preseason openers next Thursday.
There are preseason openers this Sunday.
I know.
There's a game on
I know.
Sunday.
Is that they count that, right? That's the preseason.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck is said to maybe play a series or two.
Yeah,
Oh,
I would expect
hey.
a series from the
Cool.
starters.
Well, Aaron Rodgers will not be.
But for the Forte news, Bilal Powell. We have been talking about him as a sleeper, a guy that is going at the very back of the draft.
Believe he is currently listed as either a sleeper or a value in our ultimate draft.
He is listed as a man you must draft because he is on a team that wants to run the ball. He was spectacular in the work he was given last year before his injury. The points are always the same, but the contracts are nearly identical. Yes, Forte got slightly more, but Forte is also 30 years old. He has, I believe, over 2,000 carries. Look, Bilal Powell is cheap and could turn into a league-winning running back, in my opinion.
When we had Nick Mangold on the show last year, and we were really talking about Chris Ivory, the one guy that he kept bringing up was Bilal Powell. Just basically saying, look, this guy's awesome. And he showed that last year. We forget because, he didn't play the whole season, and it didn't seem like, this great running back for fantasy, but he was actually very good, productive from weeks 11 to 16, which were basically where he was healthy and on the field. He was very valuable. I'm going to look up where he ranked in those weeks because he was good.
Sure.
He was, yeah. We had a
Okay, I've
we had
got
a very
the
bad
answer.
Yeah.
From weeks 11 to 16, where do you
Thanks
think,
for all that.
You're welcome. Where do you think he ranked fantasy football-wise? Running back.
From weeks 11 to 16?
Yeah.
Top 15?
You are correct.
All right.
He was the 10th best running back
Yeah.
in fantasy football.
We had a team in our league that was terrible last year, and he happened to sign Doug Baldwin and Bilal Powell in about week 10, and I think he won like almost all the rest of his games because those two guys. All right, let's talk about DeMarco Murray. They say he continues to impress in camp. He seems to be the guy in Tennessee. They say he's running offensive line meetings by himself, and that he is living up to all the hype about DeMarco Murray and the type of player he is. You also saw some good reports about Derrick Henry being able to catch the ball, but I think Henry's role is going to be very, very limited with DeMarco there for this season. So do we like DeMarco Murray? Does that change your opinion on him at all? Is he still really kind of like a grimace draft pick
Yes.
because of the offense?
Yes, you have nailed it. I was going to say he's a gross pick and by gross, I mean as in large volume. That's what I'm expecting,
okay.
a high gross.
Oh, a high
Gotcha.
gross, not like disgusting. Or maybe both.
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of both. But he's the guy where you know that he's going to get the ball, at least to me. I'm not super concerned about Derrick Henry eating into the workload, at least for the first half of the year.
Yeah, you can get him as an RB2, and that's a good getting him as an RB2 is very valuable
good value.
because he's going to be consistent and putting up a lot of carries.
I think by the end of this preseason period, I'm going to have DeMarco and Latavius in very similar categories as each other, which are both kind of picks that I'd love to lock them in at that RB2, and I'm probably not going to get any 30-point games from either one of them.
Right, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I would. So who's a better backup, like a better handcuff, Derrick Henry or DeAndre Washington?
DeAndre Washington.
I agree. The offensive line is just so much better.
Better offense.
For Oakland. All right. You ready to get to the mock draft?
I am.
All right.
I'm going to pull this out again, though.
Yeah, before
we got the
get
sponsor
to
of today's show.
the mock draft, one more time, we want to tell you about RCA's HD antennas. The Sliver XL It is very, very cool. You can get rid of your cable, or if you don't have cable and you want to watch football,
Yeah,
you don't want to
need
miss
an
a game.
antenna at that point.
Yeah, you're talking about full free HD from NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, all of them.
You can put your TV outside, put it by the pool.
Absolutely,
As
wherever
long as
you
you got
want.
power.
Yeah, yes, you do need power to watch
But
television.
that's it. That's all you need.
So you can get these. You can get them on their website. You can click the link in our descriptions or on our YouTube page if you want direct access to the product. Very good product, and there's a great promo. I mean, not a small offering. They're giving you 40% off and free shipping. So if you're gonna get this now. And the code is RCAFF40.
Yeah. So check out the link in the description. Go to rcaantennas.net if you want to see all the free channels you get access to. This is pretty much the best one that you can get, and they're giving you a very special deal to get you ready for the NFL football season. So check that out. RCA Antennas, the Sliver XL. Say that promo code again.
RCAFF40.
Yeah, so check it out. Thanks to RCA for sponsoring this podcast today. Let's go ahead and, let's mock draft.
The Fantasy Footballers Mock Draft.
All right, we're going to mock draft here. Hey, make sure that if you are mock drafting, you have our Ultimate Draft Kit from ultimatedraftkit.com.
I have mine pulled up right now.
Yeah.
Just saying how I do it. I pull up the tiered breakdown. So, like, I've got different tabs open right now with the wide receiver tiers, the running back tiers, quarterback tiers, and tight end tiers, so I can flip through them real easy.
Sure.
People ask all the time, like, what's the best way to use it? And that's how I would use it.
Yeah, I went on a radio show in Kansas City yesterday, and I had it pulled up to my projections so that I could reference players and stat lines and things that were going on for the upcoming 2016 season, guys that I think are sleepers and things like that. And we're keeping that updated all the time. In fact, Jason's working on a very secret project right now. Something else to add. We've got all the top 200 in. Do you want to reveal it?
I'm going to reveal it because I think
so that
What?
when you reveal
No!
it,
Yes.
when you reveal it, you're committing
I am
to
committing
Pump
all
the
three of
brakes.
us to it. I am
Turn around.
Wait, you do? You're committing us?
I am committing
Turn
you
around.
to it. Here's what's going to happen. And I think we talked about this on one of our Patreon mailbag shows, our Join the Foot mailbag shows. I said, I'm telling you guys, we have been bombarded with people asking for our auction values. Are there auction values in the UDK? No, there are not. And we said, no, it's not going to happen this year.
Yeah, we said 2017.
2017, we'll get our auction values in. We know people want them. Well, I pulled a couple late night events, and we have a system set up now where hopefully soon, by next week, we will have auction values in our UDK. You're welcome, America.
Wow.
Full disclaimer: these are not the words of Jason, or these are not the opinions of Andy and Mike. These are only represented by
No,
by Jason.
you know what? I feel like the UDK should be like sponsored by an energy drink because Jason is staying up late doing work. We're getting this thing ready. We want it to be the absolute best possible draft tool you'll ever use. Like not just for this year, but going on. We're always going to be improving it. We want to improve the way it performs on any device. All of those things. We want to make it better. So check it out at ultimatedraftkit.com. I can't believe you just committed to auction values.
It's
That's
close
That's
already.
incredible. So, all right, mock draft, 12-team, PPR mock draft. We're drafting from the 6th spot. We're using Fantasy Draft.
Oh, good, because this is the worst spot.
FantasyDraftWizard.com is our preferred mock draft choice, so
Yes.
we're using that right now. I just clicked the go button. We're going.
Now, this is full PPR.
Full point per reception league.
One quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a flex. Very, very standard. You know, it's
Standard PPR 12-team league.
yeah.
So we did a 10-team mock last week. We're doing a 12-team today. And we might do this every Friday. We might do a mock draft Friday because there's only a couple more weeks, really, until you have your teams. So we want to get you prepared for the draft.
And we want to try to draft from every draft slot, you know, show you examples of what happens if you're drafting late at the turn or early or in the middle. So this is in the middle on a PPR. These are valuable shows.
All right. The first pick in the draft, not a surprise, Antonio Brown. Then Julio Jones and Odell Beckham Jr. went 2 and 3.
Those are the top 3 guys in almost every PPR.
And David Johnson and Todd Gurley. So I'm not surprised by these picks. Reports out of camp, David Johnson is impressing, especially in the passing game. They said out of the slot, the mismatches he's going to create this year, I love him in PPR leagues. I don't know if he shows up as my number 1 or 2 in PPR right now, but him and Gurley, I believe Gurley's passing yards go up. Makes sense that these guys are off the board. We're sitting here at pick number 6. There's a lot of guys to choose from here. What does your brain tell you about this number 6 spot? Because it seems like a tough one. You got those 3 elite wide receivers off the board.
This is really easy for me. For me, going into
Brandon
all of these
LaFell?
drafts,
Is it
yes,
LaFell?
Brandon LaFell is still on the board.
Yeah, I would go Aguilar.
No, if I'm picking at the 4th spot, I know who I'm grabbing in a PPR, always. Assuming that the top 3 guys are Odell Beckham, Antonio Brown.
Is it A.J. Green?
It is absolutely A.J. Green. And at the 6th spot, I'm just hoping and praying that A.J. Green falls to me, and in this situation, he did.
So you would go Green over LaFell out of that same wide receiver core.
Yeah. I know they both have the red rifle.
Hey, look, you don't have to tell me twice. I think it's A.J. Green for me as well. I would make an argument for Brandon Marshall.
Yeah, I want to hear the other considerations.
Yeah,
for you.
Brandon Marshall's really high up there for me, even though in the kind of ADP here that we're looking at, he's down at like number 11 at the wide receiver. For me, he's my number 3 wide receiver.
Okay.
And my number 1.
So I think I'd say Marshall over Green, but I'm fine with both guys.
My number 1 PPR running back is still on the board in Lamar Miller.
Yeah, that was the question. If we're looking at a running back, who are you going to go with? You're going to take Lamar Miller?
I
Jason,
would probably lean Ezekiel Elliott
in the PPR.
in the PPR or Jamaal Charles.
Yeah.
So probably Jamaal Charles, then Ezekiel Elliott. If I was going to go running back, I think we go wide receiver here, though, because I think Marshall and Green are just going to make such an impact. You're talking about, Marshall put up, 15 touchdowns last year, 100-plus catches. I don't see any reason he's not going to do the same thing.
Yeah, the pick for me is A.J. Green because it's – like I had said, the 6 about the 6 to the 9 spot. I'm just like, there's no one who I know for sure it's the pick, but AJ Green is the one I've gravitated towards the most.
Yeah, AJ Green kind of just does work, right? Like
Look, they
just
lost,
gets it done.
They lost their wide receiver 2 and the wide receiver 3.
And Eifert won't be there for the beginning of the season.
Yeah, Green is. I think we're going back to the days of Dalton force feeding AJ Green.
I completely
It's
agree.
a very easy thing to do. A.J. Green is extremely talented. So we took A.J. Green there at number 6. We've got a long wait now for our second pick. You got AP that went off the board at 7. Hopkins, Elliott, Bryant followed that up. Rob Gronkowski and Lamar Miller rounded out the first round. I'll say this. I'm going to post the entire mock draft on the website, on the episode page. So, and by I mean Jason will do that.
I will actually do it this time.
And he will actually do it this time. We've got a second round. Devonta Freeman, love him in PPR. He went at the top of the second round. You got Allen Robinson. Lev Bell. This is what you're going to see. Second round value for Le'Veon Bell. You're going to have to wait on him. But he sure looks amazing on the board there.
Yes.
We still
Keenan
have
Allen, Jordy Nelson, and Doug Martin are the next 3.
on the board. Brandon Marshall was, I think is worthy in consideration in the first, and he is still on the board.
Oh, my goodness.
Which is great.
So
However,
you would have to double up on wide receivers.
yeah,
to
you
get
would
him.
start with the 2 wide receivers, which I think is fine. He's a tier 2 wide receiver for us, and there is actually 2 tier 2 running backs left, that being Mark Ingram and LaShawn McCoy. But there is
Jamaal Charles is on the board.
That's what I was going to say. There is a tier 1 running back on the board, and that's where when you look at the tiers and you go, okay, I can grab two of these wide receivers over here that are in tier 2, 2 that are in 2 running backs. But when you use those tiers, it's like, okay, it's clear that Jamaal Charles has to be the pick.
Yeah, we had that question on the Patreon mailbag show yesterday. How do you actually practically draft with tiers? And you just explained it.
There you go. Jamaal Charles
is my
You
pick.
have to take him here. Yeah, he has the potential to be the number 1 running back in PPR leagues.
He's done it.
He's done it before.
Plenty before.
All right, so Jamaal Charles is the pick. We have A.J. Green and Jamaal Charles. You got Lacey that went off the board right after Charles. You got Marshall, Jeffrey, Evans, and Cooper finishing out that round.
Oh.
And then Brandon Cooks, T.Y. Hilton, Mark Ingram, and C.J. Anderson. And then Jason's sigh is the fact that LaShawn McCoy was sitting there at the 5th pick in the 3rd round and just went ahead of us.
That would have been my pick here if we could have got shady, but 1 pick ahead. It's super important, people, when you are drafting and the guy you want goes 1 pick ahead, don't go on tilt.
Yeah.
It's always okay.
You can sigh like that, though.
Yeah, that's allowed.
Show me that again. Yeah, that's the LaShawn McCoy.
Now I get back up on the horse.
Yep.
And I make a good pick.
Yeah, poor horse.
Is that because I'm fat?
That's not a nice thing to say, Andy. All right, we've got the 3rd round. We're getting into the nitty gritty here. You've got some wide receivers available. Demaryius Thomas, Jarvis Landry is a valuable PPR guy. Julian Edelman, Sammy Watkins still on the board here. I'm sure he dropped due to
PPR.
PPR and the injury
concerns.
right now. You've got Thomas Rawls still on the board at the running back position, Deion Lewis, and then you've got Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed sitting there in the 3rd round. Is this too early for Jordan Reed, Mike?
It is for me. I would be okay jumping in on Reed in the 4th round if somehow he happens to fall to us. I find that doubtful in the current position that we are sitting with the draft slot we were given. I don't mind. I don't mind it if people are in the 3rd. I want Jordan Reed because I think he's a difference maker, especially in PPR. That's fine. I'm not going to try and talk you out of it. It's just not for me, especially when Demaryius Thomas, PPR monster, is still on the board. He is a wide receiver 1 for me in PPR. I know that there's offensive concerns. However, you should have had offensive concerns when you were watching Peyton Manning be the quarterback of the team last year, and Demaryius Thomas was still fantastic. I'm going to pull up his stat line just so you can hear how good he was with a terrible Peyton Manning. And he had 105 receptions, over 1,300 yards, and 6 touchdowns. That's the killer. That's why he's in the 3rd round. It's because he only had 6 touchdowns last year. So people say, oh, low touchdowns, got bad offense. I completely disagree with that. I would go Demaryius Thomas.
You've heard me talk about it. I don't necessarily think his touchdown numbers are going to change.
I
but
agree.
even if they didn't, even if he gave you last year's numbers, in a PPR league, those are very, very good for a 3rd-round draft pick. The guys that succeed in this situation when the quarterbacks are changing a little bit are the guys like Brandon Marshall, the guys like Demaryius Thomas, who are physically better than he's the guy that you can throw a slant pass to Brandon Marshall, and he's going to body out the DB, and he's going to get
bodied.
His catch radius is, the kind in which a Vince Young can complete passes.
Vince?
I don't know why I went back to Vince Young for any reason whatsoever. I should have said,
Mark
Sanchez.
Well, the truth is last year Demaryius Thomas had that down year. I agree that I expect his touchdowns to stay about the same, but he had 105 receptions. You want to know where that put him in PPR last year?
I sure do.
The big disappointment, Demaryius Thomas. He was the 11th best wide receiver in PPR. He's a wide receiver 1.
Here's a really interesting stat. I got this one from Inside Edge. Demaryius Thomas averaged 0.9 fantasy points per target last year. That was almost dead last out of all qualified wide receivers. Isn't that incredible?
And he was the
When you get that-
And he was the 11th best wide receiver.
When you get that level of targets,
exactly,
in a PPR, you got to take him.
So we're going with LaFell. Is that what you said?
Yeah, Brandon LaFell.
I'm going to keep trying that pick out.
This pick would have been between Demaryius Thomas and Dion Lewis, who was on the board in a PPR. I just don't trust Dion Lewis's health as a smaller guy to give up a 3rd-round pick when a guy like Demaryius Thomas is on the board.
Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, we took Demaryius Thomas, so we've lined this PPR roster up with AJ Green, Demaryius Thomas, and Jamaal Charles.
Targets,
I mean, that's
people.
just
targets.
That's really strong coming out of the gate. Especially, you're in a 12-man league here. This isn't like that 10-man we did last week and that super team, that dream team we ended up with.
We did end up with a pretty hot team.
We got Sammy Watkins finally went here after Demaryius. A couple more highlights from this round. You had our first quarterbacks off the board. Newton and Rodgers went back-to-back. Is this where they should go? The very back of the 3rd round?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm not likely to jump in for that kind of a price, but it's...
Where are you jumping in for Cam Newton or Aaron Rodgers?
For Rodgers, I would jump in maybe if I'm in the back of the 4th and the 5th round.
So it's not too far away.
I would consider it. I just when I'm in that situation and I like when I do my mocks and I think, okay, well, I'm just going to try this out and I put Rodgers on my team, I regret it. I always regret it about 5 rounds later when I'm looking at the quarterbacks on the board and compare Rodgers to the positional player that I could have had, and I feel bad about it.
If you're a guy that wants Aaron Rodgers, but you want to subscribe to our way of thinking about, okay, I need to get value at the quarterback position, right? If you're one of those guys and you say, well, I still really love having that top-tier quarterback, would you try to trade back from an early round pick? Let's say you trade your first-round pick and you end up with a 2 and a 3 so that you can have the draft capital to spend on a quarterback. Would you consider doing that? You listen to the show, you get values in the 2nd round. Would you trade? Let me give you a hypothetical.
Okay.
I don't want to carry this on too far, but let's say you trade your 6th pick in the 1st round, AJ Green. You get yourself a 2nd and a 3rd, a late 2nd, late 3rd.
Right.
So late 2nd in this draft, who went in the late 2nd here? We had, I don't know, let's say you ended up with Doug Martin and Aaron Rodgers. Essentially, you're trading A.J. Green for them in this situation.
I think where it works and where it doesn't is dependent upon how many starters you have. So if you're in a league that's 2, 2, and 1, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a flex, then what you just described works very well. You're still going to be able to fill out your starters very nicely at your running back and wide receiver. But if it's a 2, 3, and 1, and you've got that extra wide receiver, then the same rules apply where even making that trade might be good for you, but you're still going to want to take those early picks with a wide receiver or running back.
Yeah, and on top of, I would say that I think that most people can't actually trade their picks because they're doing them online. And
Yeah, that's fair.
So.
All right, we've got Demaryius Thomas that we drafted, and then I told you Newton and Rodgers went off at the end of the third. We had Carlos Hyde going in the 4th round. Thomas Rawls just went before our pick, and you can see all these picks on the website, thefantasyfootballers.com.
And Jordan Reed is gone.
Jordan Reed is gone.
Almost.
Yeah, good point. The first, not first tight end, second tight end off the board. I want to look. There are some very strong considerations here for our 4th pick. You still have Dion Lewis on the board.
Yes.
You also have my number 1 quarterback, Russell Wilson, is on the board.
Russell
Wilson, the 7th pick of the 4th round. I'm kind of, look, we've waited on quarterback in every single draft we've done. I kind of lean towards, hey, let's take a guy at the value here. He's my number 1, so I'd take him here. I would be willing to take him here. I don't feel like we're losing any value drafting Russell Wilson with the 7th pick. I can be talked into Dion Lewis, obviously.
What round are we in?
A PPR. It's a 4th round.
So I'm not saying he will get back to us, but the average draft position in the last month for Russell Wilson has been the 4th pick of the 5th round. So that would say he doesn't necessarily get back to us, but it doesn't say to me that he's a screaming value here. I feel like we're reaching because we say we really want him. And is that true?
I think you're kind of illustrating the actual dilemma people are going to face in the draft. This is not a situation. I believe this. You can draft Russell Wilson and be totally fine here. I don't think you're losing any value. I don't think you're getting any value other than the fact I project him to be the number 1 quarterback.
Right.
In terms of like the ADP, you're not getting a value. In terms of what I think he'll do,
right,
it's in the right spot. It's not in a bad spot is what I'm saying. So
you can
roll the dice.
He's our last tier 1 quarterback according to our rankings. Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson are tier 1. Tier 2 is Drew Brees and Cam Newton.
If we pass on, because the other pick for you guys are both Dion Lewis, I assume.
Yes, he is the pick for me.
If you passed on Lewis, here's guys that can roll around to us. Ryan Mathews, Matt Jones, Gio Bernard, Duke Johnson, DeMarco Murray, Danny Woodhead, Latavius Murray. Jonathan Stewart, who I love, who I think in the 5th round is a steal. Not necessarily in a PPR,
wait
though.
Wait a minute.
There's a couple of guys there that I do really like.
Ryan Mathews is still on the board?
Yeah.
I've changed my pick.
But why would you take Ryan Mathews here when he's going to
Ryan Mathews will
drop?
Definitely be back to us next round. It would be foolish to take
No,
Ryan
I'm telling you that's what I would personally consider right here.
If that's the case, then Andy's point here, if we want to try this, that's the point of mocking, right? You do a mock so that you can try what happens if I take a quarterback
thought it was
early.
To make somebody feel bad.
What happens if I take
another
a tight
horse
end early?
joke?
What happens, in these situations? Will I like my team better or worse? So let's take Russell Wilson here and see what happens. Andy's flexing. He's super happy. I'm sure.
That was Drew Stanton. I did the Drew Stanton.
Oh, yeah, that was very nice. I didn't see the high kick, though.
Flexibility issues.
All right, so I assume that Ryan Mathews is still available at our next pick.
Yes, he certainly is.
All right, so we got Russell Wilson, Jamaal Charles, A.J. Green, and Demaryius Thomas. We're in the 5th round. Doug Baldwin just went. Andrew Luck went off the board. I'm certainly we would not have had Russell Wilson if we had waited.
Yeah. I think you are probably right. The Dante Moncrief rising is interesting to me.
You have one flex to fill here for your starting lineup. You're looking at best value available. You got Gio Bernard, who I would take above Ryan Mathews. You have DeMarco Murray, who I would take above Ryan Mathews. You have Matt Jones that I would take above Ryan Mathews.
You would take DeMarco Murray over Ryan Mathews?
I love DeMarco in a PPR. I have no problem. He's going to catch the ball.
Yeah, he's a good pass catcher.
So for me, I'm not voting Ryan Mathews here. If you guys outvote me, that's fine. We can have an inferior player on the team. But I would take several other running backs over him. You still have wide receivers in the mix here with John Brown, Michael Floyd, Larry Fitzgerald. So all the Cardinals. Isn't that incredible? You look at the ADP list here, and you've got 3 Cardinal wide receivers back to back to back, which just makes me go, ew. Like, why why roll the dice with one of those when you can draft somebody else?
Well, one of the reasons to roll the dice with John Brown is because he's incredible and awesome, and he's going to have a huge year and be a great pick for whoever picks John Brown.
Arian Foster on the board here.
You said 4th round. I'm not willing to.
This is the 5th round.
Yeah, right now we have one running back, and that's Jamaal Charles.
You don't want a half running back in Arian Foster?
Exactly. I want to get a guy, and that might speak a little bit to Ryan Mathews, who has had an injury history as well. We said earlier on today's show that DeMarco Murray is a good running back too. Because
I think he solidifies the whole roster here.
He's gonna get a lot of volume now at the wide receiver position. Is anybody sticking out there?
I think Mike said that. Did Dante Moncrief go?
Moncrief went. Yeah.
Okay. Is anybody? Tyler Lockett's on the board. I don't know if I want to run. He's not a volume guy
to me here at wide receiver.
Josh Gordon's there, but I don't want to punt the first 4 weeks with my wide receiver 2. I would take DeMarco Murray, but I just made the pick with Russell, so I'm going to give this to you guys. You guys decide together on a name.
I'm
have Kelsey. You have Kelsey on the board too.
I'm
not taking a quarterback and then a tight end right afterwards.
Taking 2
rounds.
early is gonna hurt your position, your running backs and wide receivers. I'm gonna go DeMarco Murray here. I think that he's a little bit more solid for the way that our roster is built. That would be my vote. What say you, Mike?
I'm okay because it's a mock taking Murray here. If it was a real draft, there is a 0% chance I would take Murray over Mathews.
Talk to me a little bit about that philosophy. If Darren Sproles just got paid, he's going to have third down opportunities. Ryan Mathews in a PPR, I don't give him more value in a PPR. I give him more value in a standard league.
Darren Sproles
with that offense that's going to run.
Darren Sproles got extended for 1 year. Ryan Mathews signed a very sizable contract last offseason.
Ryan Mathews was almost traded this offseason. They were shopping him.
Maybe
well,
that was
a lot of that was because of his contract size. It's like he had $11 million.
Okay.
They were trying to get rid of a ton of cash.
You can't have 2 running backs on your roster with contracts that large, and they moved Murray.
They talked about trading Ryan Mathews after Murray went.
Isn't
it funny we're deciding between DeMarco and Ryan Mathews in that situation?
Yeah, and it's funny is you call DeMarco Murray the better player when Ryan Mathews was clearly the better running back last year.
Did I say that DeMarco Murray was the better player?
When
did I say that?
When go back on the tape,
you can't. I never said that at all.
You said we can go with Ryan Mathews, who's the inferior player, or we could take someone like DeMarco Murray.
Yeah, you did say that.
Okay, I believe I said okay, if I said that,
I'm pretty sure
I meant it. That was tongue in cheek with the fact that I was saying I like these 5 guys over the inferior guy. I'm talking fantasy football. That's what I'm talking about.
All right, so let me ask you this. I love drafting this way. I love having a co-owner. If you've never had a co-owner and go into your draft where you could debate things with them, this is great. I have Ryan Mathews 3 spots ahead of DeMarco Murray. Like in my PPR rankings, I have Ryan Mathews slightly ahead. The reason I would go DeMarco Murray here for me is just because I believe Ryan Mathews' injury history, is a little bit worse than DeMarco Murray's ability to hold up. That would be the question for me, since we only have one other running back in Jamaal Charles. It's kind of just playing the risk rating. I think Ryan Mathews performs better this year, but
who's on third down more this
risk.
year, DeMarco Murray or Ryan Mathews? Mike.
Ooh,
probably DeMarco.
It could be Murray.
All right,
it could be.
All right, let's move on here. Emmanuel Sanders went after Murray. You have other highlights here. Jeremy Langford went off at the end of the 5th round. So we drafted
DeMarco Murray?
Yeah, we already did.
All right.
Because you said DeMarco Murray.
Sure.
Well, should I not have done that?
No. I didn't realize
we're good.
Made the pick. That's the pick I wanted.
John Brown went in the 6th round.
That's a great pick.
Ryan Mathews in the 6th round. Travis Kelce went off the board. Delaney Walker went off the board. Jonathan Stewart, I think 6th round, 5th pick in a PPR. That's a value right around where he'll probably go, but I still think it's a value. Now we're sitting here, 6th round, 7th pick. Some names on the board that I want to highlight for you. Arian Foster. That's my pick right here. Arian Foster sitting there in the 6th round.
So crazy.
You get the opportunity to put him in the flex bench spot. You don't have to lean on him as a running back 1 or 2, so he's my strongest pick here. You got Jordan Mathews. You got Larry Fitzgerald, DeVante Parker, Tyler Lockett, Deshaun Jackson. Those are some wide receivers in consideration. You can go.
And our wide receivers
Melvin Gordon is sitting there. Frank Gore.
Our wide receivers on our roster
are A.J. Green, Demaryius Thomas.
Man, that's a good 1, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have studs, so it's I'm kind of okay passing, but there's Man, like your willingness to go on Foster,
Is it going in on Foster in the 6th round? Guy that might be.
It is when you're looking at Jordan Mathews, who has been, he was a garbage guy. The points were still there. He's been great his first 2 years in the season.
Well, it's your turn to make a pick here, Mike, because we've made the last few against your will.
All right, so you know what? In a PPR, I'm jumping in here on the Arizona Cardinals offense. I'm going to take old man strength, Larry Fitzgerald, because I still think that he's going to get peppered with targets. Last year, Larry Fitzgerald was number 6 in receptions. He was number 11 for targets. He especially in a PPR format, he has shown the world, I think, that he still has juice left.
When you dive into Larry's numbers, because coming into the offseason early, there was kind of the feeling where it's like, well, he really faded at the end of the year. He's getting older and he faded, and so maybe Larry's kind of done being Larry. And that's not true at all. When we had him on a bus list originally in the UDK, we took him out of that because the more that we investigated and looked, I mean, he was hog wild in the playoffs and at the end of the year.
Hog wild.
And the specific situations that happened towards the end of last year that caused his down numbers, I mean, those were very weird specific situations like David Johnson's breakout game.
Like Carson Palmer getting pulled out of 2 games.
Yeah. You had Larry last year was 7th out of 193 qualified wide receivers in yards after the catch. Larry Fitzgerald was. The league average of catch percentage per target is 59%. He was 75%. He still is a vacuum in the offense. You got 146 targets. You're going, I mean, in a PPR league, I think that's a really good pick.
Oh, I
think I like him more than Arian Foster here. So
I will say this. Right now, we have probably the oldest team I've ever drafted. Jamaal Charles, DeMarco Murray, AJ Green, Demaryius Thomas, and Larry Fitzgerald.
Well, it's a redraft.
We're a veteran.
Non-keeper redraft.
That is true.
No,
this is not a
not
dynasty.
That old. It's not that old.
It's not too bad. I really love this team so far. I'm just saying.
All right, the quarterback run has begun. Roethlisberger, Brady, Palmer, and Blake Bortles all went between the 6th and 7th rounds here. D-Jack's off the board right before us.
Oh, man, D-Jax was great. Although
Mike, how are you thinking philosophically on position now? We've got Russell Wilson, Jamaal Charles, DeMarco Murray, and then 3 wide receivers with AJ Green, Demaryius Thomas, and Larry Fitzgerald. What do you think of position-wise? I
actually was going to bring it up now that we so Kelsey has gone off of the board as well. So we are past
we lost Fleener's off the board too.
Yeah, and then Fleener went off as well. So there was like those top tight ends. I am now officially in punt mode.
Yep.
Which
is,
and that's perfectly fine by me because I still love Antonio Gates. Speaking of
me too,
of increasing the age of our team.
Oh my gosh!
Later on, I
like the way this is going.
I love putting Antonio Gates on my team. Just saying that there's guys who I like, but I know because of ADP, I don't have to take any of these guys right now. No. I can just keep loading up my other positions.
Between Gates and, to me, Eric Ebron, we've got 2 guys that I love that are still going to be able to be grabbed later.
Let me ask you this: if you do what we did, which is I know rare, but drafting Russell Wilson where we did, doesn't that make you more likely to go with the pure streaming late round tight end situation so that you can maximize those picks? You know,
but it's possible where let's say
like if it was Kelsey on the board right now.
Yeah, well, I'm saying like or Fleener.
If Fleener was on the board right now, I'd be slightly tempted.
Really?
Well, in a PPR, I think that New Orleans Saint tight end role. I mean, he always for the last like 5, 6, 7 years has been over 100 targets, and for a tight end in a PPR league, that's fantastic.
It's funny, I actually find myself, when push comes to shove, I'm afraid to draft Coby Fleener.
I am not.
Yeah,
he will be one of my guys.
I totally get it with all the reports of how great Michael Thomas is.
I know who I'd pick
in practice, and the kind of the fear is that Thomas is going to siphon away from Coby Fleener, not the other guys. But I'm going on the history of the team and going off of especially what Drew Brees did with Ben Watson last year. Speaking of getting paid, Coby Fleener got paid to be the guy. So
fair enough.
I don't have concerns.
All right, let's pick up the pace here. We're getting into the middle of the 7th round now. Arian Foster's on the board, guys.
That's my pick. I think the fact that we've got a roster right now with 2 other running backs, he's our 3rd running back. This is 7th round. This is about where I think he might be able to be a good value even if he doesn't play the whole season. We've got a stacked wide receiver core and a quarterback. I have no problem at this point in the draft drafting a guy with the high upside of Foster in the 7th round.
I was going to mention during the news, we moved past it, that look, I'm fine. I know that the trends are going to move to Arian Foster, But what the offensive coordinator said of we want a guy who is the 3-down guy. With Foster moving up, that is going to push Ajayi way down. I don't believe in the health of Arian Foster. I don't think that he can return, and if he does return, I don't think he can hold up. So just as Ajayi gets moved further and further down, he is likely to become a value target.
Well, and he's a good handcuff here for Foster.
I can't tell you how beautiful it is to see the little picture of Arian Foster right before I drafted him. He's just for him to be fantasy relevant again. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of how great it was to have, Brett Favre hang on just for the fun of Brett Favre in the league. Arian needs to stay around.
There is no doubt on planet Earth that if you ever got a tattoo of a player, it would be Arian Foster.
That is correct. Because of his acting skills. Have you seen Draft Day?
Incredible.
He's also been faking these injuries. You just didn't know.
Oh, yes.
All right,
Very
Arian
good
Foster,
actor.
we took him. Big run of quarterbacks went after that with Manning, Rivers, Carr. You saw Melvin Gordon, Ajayi go off the board, some of the rookies from last
You
year.
scroll it down so I can see some of these names here.
All
Here
right,
we
make
go.
the pick for us, Mike. Give us some perspective. Josh Gordon's there if you want to just
Sure.
go nuts.
Josh Gordon. What round are we in?
We're in the eighth round.
Eighth round, we have 3 running backs and 3 wide receivers. So this is really, where you take a look at those two positions and think, do I want more running backs, more wide receivers? Is there a better one in one of those situations?
Sure. So the two names there's 3. There's 3 names that are standing out to me right now. And one wide receiver, that's Marvin Jones. We don't know exactly how the split is going to shake out for Detroit's passing game. I think that Tate will still be the better guy, but there's a high possibility that Marvin Jones is well over 100 targets on the season, and for a PPR, that's fantastic. And then for running backs, I love Charles Sims. I think that he's very valuable with Doug Martin on the board, over 1,000 total yards. And Andy is shaking the mouse pointer over my next guy, Rashad Jennings. The arrow is going to be moving up for Rashad Jennings, who was unbelievably dominant for the last 25% of last year's season. He's a starting running back. He's very valuable as well in PPR, I think, because he catches the ball.
And he's old enough to make this team.
He is. He does.
I was going to say,
does he move us? That should be our next qualifier.
This is a veteran-only draft, right?
Does he move him? Does he move our age, the age range up? Does he move the average up? Then I want him on the team.
It's close to it. Who do you want to take?
Oh, man.
Still got Ertz, Gates.
Because there's still some wide receivers I love, I'm going to take a starting running back in the 8th round in Rashad Jennings.
The only other question with him was whether we could have waited another round for Rashad Jennings, but we did.
I don't think we could.
We took him. We got to get through these last
there
picks
was
here.
a huge
We're gonna,
running back run after him, so
we're going to post the entirety of this on the website. Jason, what were you saying?
There was a huge run of running backs after
8 straight.
Yeah, we took him. That being said, there's still guys on the board I love, like Bilal, Powell here in the 8th. Ninth. Yeah, now we're in the 9th. Wide receivers that are still on the board and tight ends that are on the board, we need to look at those now at this point. Marvin Jones still available. We could actually go with some youth in a Sterling Shepard or a Willie
PPR
Snead
value
guy.
with Shepard for sure.
Absolutely. And then tight ends on the board, we've got Gates, Dwayne Allen, Eric Ebron. Those are 3 guys, and Jason Witten in PPR. Those are 4 guys I'm fine with, so I'm not grabbing a tight end here. Bilal Powell's great, but between Marvin Jones and Sterling Shepard, I'm going to pick one of those 2 guys at this point.
No thought of maybe going Josh Gordon here?
I'd be happy to go Josh Gordon here.
Just I'm asking Jason.
For me
personally, for me personally, I would rather have a guy that's going to go all 16.
All right.
I don't think there's so many things that have to fall right for Josh Gordon to do it. If this was a dynasty, I would think a little differently.
It's interesting because I feel like if you did take Josh Gordon, you have Foster and Gordon that can both be potential elites in the flex position for you. If Larry Fitzgerald comes down off of those target numbers, both of those guys might step in and be, they have at least top 10 potential if they performed. So that would be, as opposed to Shepard, you're not getting top 10 numbers out of Shepard.
Right.
I just don't know what the role he would play in this offense. That's my draft philosophy. I'm okay, though, drafting that guy. Is that who you want?
Actually, that you bring up a very good point because AJ Green, Demaryius Thomas, and Larry Fitzgerald, those are steady guys. Those are guys that get a ton of volume and targets. And while AJ Green and to a lesser point Demaryius Thomas can have those gigantic blow-up games, you're really talking about consistency. I think you're right that if you want to crack into this roster with those 3 wide receivers ahead, you're going to need a guy who can absolutely blow up, and that would be Josh Gordon. So because of the team makeup,
In more ways than one.
yes, I would. He can blow up in a number of ways.
Mike, would you take Gordon over Marvin Jones?
It's really tough, but I like the arguments of just how incredible our 3 wide receivers are. So I'm fine going Gordon. And Marvin Jones went with the next pick.
All right, what do you guys want to do here? We're pressed for time. Do you want to just put the rest of the draft up on the website?
I think we can pick pretty quick
yeah,
here. Let's
All right, so Josh Gordon off the board. We have 2 bench spots left and a tight end spot. Do you guys want to make the jump here? Antonio Gates
Yes.
made it down here. We'll take Antonio Gates as our tight end. I think that's incredible value. I love Antonio Gates this year, and I love the fact that he adds to our age of this team. We took Antonio Gates. You still got Snead on the board here in the 11th round. I love that.
You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, is he your pick?
Yeah.
The value there is really good, but we are pretty wide receiver heavy.
Oh,
so
yeah,
if
yeah,
we
yeah,
go
yeah.
with a wide receiver here, then our last pick
Well,
has to be a running
Let
back.
me ask you this. Paul Perkins. We got Rashad Jennings. Is Paul Perkins a consideration here?
He would be. So how many we have?
You got the backfield locked up.
We have 4 of each. We're balanced right now, correct?
Sure.
We have 4 running backs.
Yeah, I would say Willie Snead with this pick. Look for Paul Perkins next, which I think he'll be around. No chance Willie Snead gets back to us.
You make a really good point there. We've got all right, we're sitting here. Chris Thompson's still on the board. Paul
Yeah.
Perkins is there. You could handcuff with Paul Perkins. I think the value's there for that. You guys want to do that?
Yeah,
I would personally take Thompson.
Chris Thompson is a great pick this late in a draft. I'm fine with either one of those.
We'll go with Thompson. We've been talking about him on the show, the fact that he has a lot of upside, especially if Matt Jones disappoints a little bit.
They're getting some first-team reps,
And
we're
in
hearing.
in a PPR.
We'll grab the Minnesota Vikings defense
Love
with
it.
the second to last pick.
Oh, you didn't grab
And then we'll rotate around to
Gostkowski, huh?
Jimmy Graham as our kicker. No, I'll take Vinatieri, and we're done. We got the roster here.
We'll post it on
did
the
it,
website.
America.
Let's run it back here. We talked about this last week. Don't worry about the way that any of your mock draft systems grade you. They grade you. Do some mock drafts at fantasydraftwizard.com and send them to us. Let us see what you did. We ended up with Russell Wilson, Jamaal Charles, DeMarco Murray, A.J. Green, Demaryius Thomas, Antonio Gates, Larry Fitzgerald. On the bench, Arian Foster, Rashad Jennings, Josh Gordon, Willie Snead, and Chris Thompson. I love that in a PPR. Tell me, final thoughts on the draft, and speak to drafting Russell Wilson where we did, because we haven't done that in a mock draft. Taking a guy in the 4th round, even if I believe Russell Wilson is a top 3 quarterback, but what do you
Right.
think about that?
I think our starting roster is unbelievable. In the bench, that's my kind of a bench, man, where it is highly volatile. But there is some really great upside there on the bench if things roll our way. And if they don't, then we'll just replace them with good waiver wire guys.
Yeah, I really like it. Russell Wilson did not hurt us picking him there, so I think we saw a position around and guys that were on the board that allowed us to do that. No regrets.
No regrets.
No regrets.
All right, well, that does it for today's mock draft episode. Hope you really enjoyed it. Hopefully you can catch up on all of our episodes of the podcast over the weekend. We'll be going 5 days a week from now until the end of December, because that's what we do. We do this full time. We are committed to helping you win your league, and not just that, enjoy the league that you're playing in. We have a lot of fun things we do all year long, including the water bets we talk about on the show, and a lot of very fun things, and we like listening and interacting with you, so check us out on Twitter at the FF Ballers. You guys have any parting words for the audience, or shall we move forth? We'll do some more positional shows next week, and we also have a very exciting show coming up. One of you guys want to talk about that? The MVP episode?
You can talk about it. You just did.
Well, now I'm tossing it to you.
Okay,
'cause
yeah, we got we're lining up a fantasy MVP show. We're reaching out to a bunch of our industry some
Who's
pals.
who?
friends.
Yeah, and trying to get some takes on who people think is the fantasy MVP. We're letting them define that the way that they want to define that.
That's going to be a staple show. You do not want to miss
And
that.
so we're very much looking forward to it. I am also looking forward to Monday breaking down the 3rd and 4th string action that we get to witness this Sunday in the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah, we'll break.
Can't wait.
Hey, I don't care. If I can turn the television on and there is football,
And
that works.
Just bask in the glow.
So definitely avail yourselves of the opportunity to use the promo code BALLERS on fantasyjocks.com for any draft boards, trophies, all of that type of
Belts
stuff.
to bring.
So take care.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.